Guests in my podcast are like my coffee, strong, flavorful, and they always brighten my day. We have amazing conversations over coffee. We cover everything from growth to inspiring communities, empowering customers, and sharing exceptional leadership moments. In this season, we're hosting incredible leaders whose journeys inspired me to keep growing and learning every day. I'm Imane, and I welcome you to my podcast, Coffee with Me, Leaders of Change. Hi, everyone, and welcome to my podcast. Today, I welcome Anindo Dutta. He is a partner at EY Asia Pacific. He describes himself as an Asian American business leader and a global citizen who has lived and worked in the Americas, EMEA, and Asia Pacific. Well, brace yourself. He speaks basic Spanish and is also fluent in several Indian and Asian languages, including Japanese. As a digital ESG sustainability leader, he has worked in some of the leading global tech companies, including Microsoft. Anindo personally develops and manages C-suite relationships and currently leads a senior leadership team driving digital transformation, including cloud, AI, machine learning, big data, analytics, for EY's global clients and customers. In this role, he has been driving consistent double-digit sales and revenue growth. In his free time, Anindo enjoys traveling with his wife and 2 sons. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you, Imane, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm looking forward to our discussions.
Awesome. Let's take a seat.
Great. Excellent.
So, Anindo, you identify yourself as a global citizen.
Sure.
Why is that?
Well, that's a great starting question. I think it's a part of my DNA. It's who I am. I was born in India for the early years. I moved to the U.S. So all of my education, graduate school, MBA is all from the U.S.
Yes.
And yet all of my work experiences have been all over the world. In Latin America, in Europe, in Asia, quite a bit. So it's really a good amalgamation of different experiences, my own ethnicity, and yet my nationality is linked back to the U.S. So I can leverage any of those dimensions in situations. Really proud of it.
That's incredible. When I introduced you just earlier to the audience, you mentioned speaking Spanish and Japanese, and I was very intrigued because Spanish and Japanese are completely 2 different languages, plus the many other languages that you speak.
Sure.
How did you come to learn all these languages?
Yeah, so I think a couple of things. First is I think I have a knack for languages, just inherently since I was a child. I was born in Delhi, raised in Delhi for the early part of my life, so I speak several Indian languages just from growing up in India. I kept that with me as I moved to the States. But then for work, I was going to Latin America a lot. I picked up the Spanish language, which I found was very useful to connect with colleagues and teams in that language.
Yes.
And then as I was coming to Asia quite a bit over the last 20 years, particularly to Japan, while I was in the US, I took some Japanese classes. But you really appreciate it when you're in the market. So being able to practice the language in Japan or in other parts of Asia, I felt was key, and so I've just held on to it. I mean, I need more practice.
Arigatou gozaimashita.
Hai, arigato. Absolutely, and even Spanish to this day. In fact, we have a trip planned as a family to Costa Rica shortly. I'm looking forward to it so I can practice my Spanish. Habla español, pero un poquito.
Un poquito. I used to go to the US a lot, and I look like a Latin American. So they would talk to me in Spanish. So I just learned no hablo español. Yes.
Speak Spanish.
Yes. No soy a Latina.
You're not a Latina?
Yes. So those are the ones, because they will come to me speaking Spanish. I'm like, no hablo español, no soy Latina. But it's really cool that you take the language and learn it in order to understand the culture and get closer to your clients.
Absolutely. I found in my professional life now, and I've always had global roles, the ability to connect beyond just the work element, the ability to connect at a personal level, with the culture, with the language, with the food.
Yes.
I mean, there's great ways to bond with teams, with clients, and I think that's been incredible. So I appreciate multi-cuisine. Different. My friends are from different nationalities. It's kind of become a part of who I am, if you will. So.
And that brings me to the next question, which is really interesting when we were discussing earlier about your leadership style that has 3 C's.
Yes, very much. So I've tried to, everyone has different leadership attributes they pull from. For me, I've kind of crystallized that, and the ones that I use the most often is what I call the 3 C's, right? So congeniality, collaboration, and coaching, or in any order, but it's the 3 C's. So you want to be collaborative with teams, with clients. You want to be congenial, easy to approach, etc. I see it served me well. And then more importantly, with teams that I manage, I'm more of a coach. I'm there to help. The teams are very competent with what they're doing, but I'm here to help. I'm here to support. So I found those 3 C's help me and help me well.
Yeah, and in Microsoft, we have the model coach care, sure. Which is really similar in what comes to caring and coaching and also role modeling. Now, I'm stuck with the congeniality C's.
Okay.
I want to know more about that. How did it come up with? How is it working? How does it apply? Like the coach and collaboration, I do understand.
Yeah.
But the congeniality piece.
I think to me, it's a part a little bit, it's tied to the personality of the person, right? Are you approachable? Are you humble, right? Can you kind of change your personal style depending on the audience, right? Some people are just fixed on a certain track. For me, I find I can vacillate quite a bit. If I'm in India, I'll draw on a lot of my Indian language skills and cultural skills and sensitivity. If I'm in the US, I draw on a certain set of other attributes, right? So, and just generally, I'm fairly outgoing. I like people. I like being with people. So in general, I've found congeniality works for me as an attribute, and I draw on it quite a bit.
Yeah, I love it. And hence we have the podcast today, because the first time I met with Anindo, we had really great time connecting and getting the summit done between EY and Microsoft few months ago.
No, thanks for your support. It was great because, as you know, we were trying to make the connection stronger. We've been partners for quite a while, but I think we have really become very strong collaborators now between EY and Microsoft. So thanks for your support.
I love it. Now, coming to a slightly difficult question. I went to your team and asked about how would they describe you. And they said you are a digital transformation visionary. What do they mean by that?
Sure. So I think a couple of things, as I look at digital transformation, we are constantly advising our clients, EYs, in the business of digital transformation. But what we've found, and what I've particularly liked to draw on, it's not just about the technology. It's not about the bits and bytes, and it's not about the speeds and feeds. It's really about the people dimensions. Have you prepared your people for what the transformative journey is going to be? Is there adequate change management there, right? So, I think when they're talking about being a visionary, it's because I'd like to also include the people elements along with the technological changes that we advise clients on. And in many cases, we tell our own story, how we've transformed ourselves, and it had to do with our people getting ready, upskilling, being able to embrace change.
Yeah.
So it's all of those elements, I think, as a part of the overall vision that I think has worked well.
Yeah, and the digital transformation is not once done and that's it. It's
Correct.
a continuous journey.
Correct.
That evolves with the team, with the people.
Correct.
The technology evolves, but we need the people to evolve as well.
Absolutely.
In order to be a digital transformation leader.
Absolutely. Hence the upskilling, the constant learning. I love the Microsoft tagline around growth mindset. Yes. You're constantly learning, evolving, and so we've taken that in our teams as well, right? Whether it's technology, whether it's cultural sensitivity, we're constantly learning and evolving that way.
Yeah, and I love that we started doing generative AI and open AI and all these amazing use cases, and you shared, oh, Imane, we're embracing it in EY.
Yes. Yes. I mean, this is the power of the ecosystem. So I run the ecosystems for EY with all of our strategic partners. Microsoft is the top. And what we've learned is EY alone, we're not able to do everything that we want to do. So it's how do we leverage the strengths of our partners? Microsoft is all in on AI and we love it. We are collaborating. We're leveraging the ecosystem. And then we say, hey, can we bring in, a third person here, a third entity? So it's 1 + 1 = 5.
Yeah.
As opposed to doing it all ourselves or for you guys to do it all yourselves. How do we kind of make it more collaborative together?
And I can just switch EY and Microsoft in the sentence that you mentioned and say the same thing. We are as successful as our ecosystem is successful.
Absolutely.
If we get your EY and other partners together in this AI era, we can only be successful as long as we are all working together.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And right now we're all in on AI with each other. So generative AI, helping our clients figure out what it means, the strategy, the technology is all coming from Microsoft and OpenAI. So we're able to do this together, which I'm really excited about.
And then you bring in AI. And one thing that one of the AI leaders in Microsoft coached me a few weeks ago, he said, Imane, remember, it's a co-pilot. It's not the era of autopilot, it's a co-pilot. So the partners and the teams and the customers are still in control with co-pilot.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's very much still enabling you.
Yes.
And then there's somebody kind of assisting you, supporting you, etc. So it's very, very cool. I think the question is, how do we put it to use, the right use cases?
Yes.
And we're seeing that explode in business right now. Just the use of generative AI in different applications, be it travel apps or, on employee self-service. It's just, there's so many possibilities.
Yes, I love it. I love it.
Super excited.
I love it. So what would you tell your younger self if you have a time machine, went back in time and said, I'm 20 years old, Anindo Dutta, what would you advise yourself?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I have been thinking about it as I'm getting more mature. I think a couple of things. One, I think the career progression and development is more of a long-term, like a marathon. It's not a sprint. I think in our early days, we're always trying to get to the next move or the next destination, the next level, and then you kind of forget the journey along the way. So I think if I can do it all over again, it's to enjoy the journey along the way. The part that I think has worked for me particularly, and I'd love to do it again, and I'll tell my younger self to also do it again, is what I call the 3 R's.
So now I have this 3 C's and the 3 R's.
So the 3 R's that work for me are risk, resilience, and resurrection, which means take calculated risks at the right time, having mapped out the environment, be resilient in the face of obstacles. And then there are times you are going to slip and fall and move back 2 steps. Yeah. Can you then pick yourself up, resurrect, and then kind of move forward? Yes. So that's worked for me for sure. And I would tell my younger self, hey, there's something called the 3 R's that could work well for you as well.
I love it. So last question of the day.
Sure.
I went to EY's website and I saw the tagline about reframing the future. So how are you reframing your future at this stage?
Oh, it's a great question. So for us, we think we have to constantly evolve. We have to look at the future. I mentioned the part about the partnerships and the ecosystems. So that is a core part of what we want to do, what we do at EY. And for me, particularly with the business that I run, it's about partnerships and ecosystems. So we want to make sure the future players in our ecosystem are Microsoft and EY working together, generative AI or metaverse. So we want to be much more active with our partners. We want to collaborate. We want to co-innovate. So very much we want to change the game for the future. And we think that leading with Microsoft and EY on the forefront, that's how we think we can reframe the future.
I love it. And leading with the 3 C's.
Yes.
Coaching, congeniality, collaboration.
Yes, very much. very
Awesome.
much.
I love it. Thank you so much for coming to the podcast.
Sure. Thanks, Imane. Thanks for having me. And you've been a terrific partner in crime. So thanks for all your support.
No worries, anytime. And thank you all for watching. Remember the 3 C's and the 3 R's from Anindo. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.